What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box. No, hang on, that was shit. Let me try that again. No, actually, hey everybody, it's Aiden here once again, and welcome to the third episode of something I like to call Hotlaps and Chat. It's a bit like Netflix and chill, only nobody gets laid. Now, this is a series where I offer opinions and thoughts on the happenings of sim racing and the real world of motorsport. In the previous two episodes, I looked at the Carmen Jordan controversy and how best to make F1 great again. Today, though, I'm looking at something that rages across the internet and comes up time and time again, or every couple of months. Driver aids. There seems to be, in sim racing at least, a snobby attitude to driving aids. If you use them, you're less of a driver. You're effectively cheating. And in the real motorsports world, the opinion is that they shouldn't be using them because the sport should be about real driver talent. And I hate that term. Real engines, real tracks, real drivers. It's making my blood pressure go up now thinking about it. We had real drivers in the 90s apparently. So then, let's look first at sim racing. Now, sim racers want an experience that's as realistic as possible, which is understandable. But there always seems to be a taboo surrounding the use of any computerised gadgetry such as ABS or anti-lock braking systems and traction control. If you're using traction control, you're less skilled than someone who doesn't do it. For someone to be one of these so-called real drivers, then they've got to have it off. Some think they're faster with it, or prefer it off. That's fine. But if you think you have to have it off because of some weird preconception that you're not a driver worth his salt by having it on, then maybe you're taking this a smidge too seriously. Now, traction control in GT3 cars, for instance, functions differently to the traction control in, say, a Ford Focus RS. The traction control in the Ford GTs at Le Mans this year is adjustable. You can turn it off completely, or you can adjust it on the fly or leave it at a certain point until such time your tyres are shot enough to warrant turning it up, which is how I use the systems. Now, the musician in me is going to start talking for a moment, so you might want to skip ahead if none of this makes any sense to you. Now, if you're a regular here, you'll know that I trained as a music teacher a few years ago and have a music technology degree, so studio engineering is my speciality, or was my speciality, and I've used some of my recordings in my videos. There might even be a couple in this one, but I'm not quite sure yet because I haven't done that bit yet. Now, traction control, at least in a GT3, an LMP, or whatever it is a lot like pitch correction. Now, let's face it, every album you've bought in the last 20 years or so has had it. Even if it's a so-called real singer, like, I don't know, those guys from the Eagles or whatever. Did you know that there is pitch correction on What's the Story Morning Glory by Oasis? And I only know that because there was an interview with the guy who engineered that album in an edition of Sound on Sound a few years back. It's totally true. Of course, pitch correction is everywhere on modern pop albums by modern pop stars, but I'm going to divide the room here. Katy Perry can sing. Taylor Swift can sing. Adam Levine from Maroon 5 can sing. Ariana Grande has a phenomenal set of lungs, as does Camila Cabello, and Adam Lambert, if you watch his performances with Queen, that guy is amazing. But all their albums use pitch correction. It's the world we live in where albums have to be so polished it's unreal. Everything has to be smack dab on the beat and every note has to be perfectly in tune. No, I'm not the world's best singer. I can carry a tune and there'll be a few times in a recording I'm noticeably out. So what do I do if there's something not quite there? I re-record it. Or there's that one note or passage that I just can't get right. Well, I use pitch correction to knock it back into place. And that's what traction control in sim racing is. It's a tool. It's not a talent replacer. Also remember that in endurance racing, these guys and girls are driving 2 or 3 hour stints with other classes racing around them. Formula 1 cars don't have traction control anymore because they all use the same ECU, while in sports cars they don't. Formula 1 cars don't have weekend racers driving them either, and the regulations surrounding super licenses are much more strict in 2018, which I expand on in the Make F1 Great Again video. Now, sports cars, especially endurance formats, rely on paying drivers to fund the sport. GTE AM and LMP2 both have minimum drive times. The equipment is massively expensive and it costs about $2 million a year to run one GT car for one season. The budgets are much smaller than Formula 1 and there's going to be a mix of pro drivers and guys who do it for a hobby. And the last thing a team wants is their gentleman racer going into La Source, seeing 3 LMP1s coming up behind him at a rate of knots, panicking, booting it too early, spinning out and collecting several million quid's worth of LMP1s and writing his car off in the process as well. All traction control does in sim racing in the real world is make the cars easier to drive. It's still up to the driver to make them go quickly. Now, your only hope at finding this so-called pure driving is karts. I mean, watch that if it bothers you that much. The other thing to take into account here is that in GT and LMP racing you've got 3 drivers all driving the same car. 1 car, 3 drivers, 1 setup. And that setup is going to be a compromise between the 3 of them, and a system like traction control helps with that. Now as an example, I'm going to take 3 drivers with 3 different yet distinct driving styles. Jenson Button, Shane van Gisbergen and Nico Rosberg. Jenson's a smooth but fast driver and will probably have the system set so he gets as little slip as possible but not compromise his exit speeds out of slower corners, which is my approach. Shane van Gisbergen on the other hand is going to drive the doors off it for the entire stint because he's Shane van Gisbergen, and I actually would not be surprised at any point he turned the system off completely because he wants the back end to be loose. And finally Nico Rosberg, who will do the bare minimum to make sure that car gets to the driver swap where the team wants it to be. So he's going to run the thing maxed out, preserve some tyre life so they can be used later if need be. Plus, they'll be going for 3 hours or more, multiple times, especially at Le Mans. There's a safety aspect here too. The longer the race, the more chance a driver has of making a mistake that crashes the car. In a Bathurst 12 hour, do you want to be on the top of the mountain and have that blocked off because some guy new to sim racing has lost it through McPhillamy and you catch him in the wrong place at the wrong time, ruining all that time and effort you put in to prepare for the race? In real racing, do you want a 3-hour delay while a mess is cleaned up and then have the remaining 6 or whatever hours with a diminished field? Because look what happened with a diminished field at Le Mans this year. We all knew who was going to win, Toyota. And I guarantee Alonso was running traction control in that LMP1. In addition to that, Schumacher won 5 of his 7 world titles with traction control. Hamilton and Vettel won all of theirs without it. So does that mean Lewis and Seb are real drivers and Schumacher isn't? I mean, I'm just applying the same logic here, although it is still unfair to compare different eras. Modern racing cars are supercomputers. There's more processing power in the McLaren 650 GT3 than in the Apollo 11 rocket that sent man to the moon. There's more processing power in my iPhone than in the Apollo 11 rocket, and that fits in my pocket. Yeah, that rhymes. Now you could mandate a spec ECU and get rid of traction control in endurance racing, but it's not wanted. Engine variety is different and there are more OEM technical partners involved, which allows more freedom. There's actually more freedom in WEC than F1 right now. The Toyota that won Le Mans before it even started this year had a V6 hybrid. The Porsche that won last year had a 2-litre V4 hybrid, while the Ferrari 458s had a V8 turbo and the Fords had a V6 turbo. The Astons run a naturally aspirated V8 and Porsche uses a flat 6. But that's the way endurance racing works over others. The attention is more on the brand of car that wins rather than the drivers. The news outlets all reported that Toyota had won Le Mans with no mention of the drivers. Aston Martin wins GTE, Ford crashes out, and the companies involved are all selling road-going versions of that car. It's all a big R&D exercise. It's actually more relevant than F1 at the minute. Those cars will all have traction control in the road-going versions and will have anti-lock brakes as well. Like in racing, it's all for safety. With the exception of companies like Ariel and Noble, every car sold in the European Union has ABS as standard at least. It's law. And the highway code is now actually out of date in terms of stopping distances. That's how far it's all come. Now, just as a side note, the Ariel and Noble cars don't have ABS because they sell fewer than 500 vehicles a year and are exempt from the law. The more you know. By using traction control in ABS on cars that allow them in sims, you're not cheating. In the January Hot Lap contest this year, I came 3rd at Laguna Seca in the 2005 Renault using traction control. Everybody was using it, even the 2 guys ahead of me who were second a lap quicker. Why did we use it? Because we went faster with it. But this is the way a racing driver, real or in the simulation, operates. Tell a racing driver strapping an 18-inch black Rhino Annihilator dildo to the front of his car will make him half a second a lap faster, and he will do it. It seems to be common among sim racers that they are more hardcore than others because they turn a system off while everybody around them has it on. It's the I don't use pitch correction because I'm a real musician thing again. Besides, F1 cars in the early 2000s had traction control and everybody raves about how great they were. The way I see it is, if a car has traction control, like a 2005 F1 car or an Oreca LMP2, I'll use it. If it doesn't, like a 2013 F1 car or a V8 supercar, I won't. People want realism, but turn their noses up at it when they're given it. But then again, if it bothers you that much, it's a computer. Turn it off. Do what you want, but don't have a go at others for it. Now, what is your opinion on the traction control and driver aids debate in real racing cars or virtual racing cars? Is anyone less of a driver because they use it? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, and if you want to take our relationship to the next level, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you all again on Monday for another video. Until then, I've been Aidan Millward. Have a great day wherever you live in the world, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.